proximity with all of this as well, or is the people skills aspect, the fact that we don't have elbow time with each other at the water cooler or can't get a cup of coffee together and go for a walk and just have that social learning experience, that opportunity to connect with each other as people and just get in casual conversations about work or clients or challenges that we're all facing, because all of this needs to be approached in a different way, and that's to honor and respect this specific medium. So our goal today is to show you how and why business improv techniques will be effective for you authentically on your terms, for your company, for your team, and ultimately for your clients as well. Now, the way that we're going to approach this is simple. Two concepts. One, approach. How are we setting ourselves up for success? And this is energy and attitude. And then we're going to look at this framing of language, specifically yes and, as a way to approach this. Now, before we get into this though, I want you to lean in right now, start typing on the computer for me so I can see what you think of when you hear the word improv. Well, what do you think of when you hear the word impro or improvisation or improv? Go to your chat right now, please. Tell me what you think of when you hear this word. All right, here we go. Thinking on your feet, it's finding alternatives or alternative solutions, adaptability, stand-up comedy. Yes, Rose, absolutely. Spontaneous, unplanned, making things up as we go along, on the fly, adapting, thinking on your feet, exploring possibilities, good, not knowing what's going to happen next, agility, doing what you have to do on the fly, agility, spontaneity, being adaptable. All right, fantastic. Emergency, thank you very much. Yes. So what you presented is what we've heard an awful lot over the last 21 years, and what I'm presenting to you right now is not to negate what you continue to bring to the table right here, reacting to feedback without preparation. Faith. I'm going to come to that one in a second here. Because without preparation, that's a pretty common association, and that is one that I'll shine a light on soon enough. Now, the way that we define improv in business improv is different than how it's used comedically. I am a comedic improviser. I rose to all of the highest stages in Chicago and New York as a performer and link it to business through behavioral psychology and cognitive psychology, so this definition is unique to us. And the way that we define improv and business improv is on three core competencies: reacting, adapting, and communicating. Reacting, adapting, communicating. Reacting is focus and its concentration, its presence in real time at a very high level. Adapting is if you're reacting within parameters or trying to achieve a specific outcome, like in a shifting strategy based on variables that are uncontrollable and unknown that happen in real time, or a conversation with somebody. And that's the subroot to both of those. Communication. We're not in space. We're not in a vacuum. There's always someone with whom we can react and adapt, or something in our environment to which we're forced to react and adapt. And then this then begs this next question. Please lean in, start punching on keys right now. Who's the first to bring an idea to the table? What are concrete examples of teams that improvise well? Not adjectives to describe teams, real life teams that improvise well. All right, here we go. Sales, rugby teams, yes. Paramedics, definitely, yes. Young teams, potentially. Children, anyway. Yes, definitely. Sports teams, of course. Yes. Small project teams, football. Yes, yes. Good, keep them coming. What other teams improvise well? Soccer teams, yes. News teams, yes. Project officers, uniform teams, designers. Yes, yes. Good, good. You're all right. We're getting a pretty broad scope of teams that improvise well. Medical teams, army, journalists, accountants. Yes, it's true. A lot of people don't think that because they're like, oh, numbers, you can't really fudge numbers. Well, you can. However, at least client-facing, team-facing, there's a lot of improvisation that's inside of this. Police teams, ER, musicians, engineers, cultural teams. Me. Yes, thank you very much. We're going to do the best we can here. Management teams. All right, so you predicted actually a lot of what I have here. So what I have us starting off with is jazz, as that's a musical style that most people associate with improvisation. Then we move into EMTs, firefighters, police, special forces, first responders, sports teams, as mentioned, with all the great examples here as well. And keep in mind as well, I have a second computer where I'm reading it from, and then I have my own curveball in there. Elite chefs. If anybody watches any of these cooking competitions, it's like, what's in the basket? I don't know. Take it out, put it back together again, present it in a way that's meaningful, impactful, tasty, good presentation. can compete with everybody else, and the list will go on and on and on. So looking at this base list that I have here, as well as all of the great ideas, military, forecasters, management teams, everything that you brought to the table, when you look at what you brought through the chat and what we have here, the question is not, do these groups need to react, adapt, and communicate? That's the answer. The question isn't, do you need to react, adapt, communicate, i.e. improvise? That's the answer. The question is, and again, looking at this list as a base representation, do they train? Do they draw up plays, strategies? Are they creating contingency plans? Are they thinking about the environment in which they're going to have to react, adapt, communicate, improvise? Are they thinking about the teams that they're going to be facing, the competition? You know, what you're hearing from me, and this goes back to what Faith and a few others mentioned as well, in lack of preparation, it's the opposite. Great improvisation takes place with tons of preparation. It's about getting a foundation of knowledge and understanding. It's about comfort. Get the reps in, because in times of risk and uncertainty, stress, crisis, we fall back on our most overused and overlearned behaviors, and improvisation is inherent in how we use these overlearned and overused behaviors. The next challenge is most people don't think that way. We just think like, oh, well, this is the best I can do based on these circumstances and this environment, as opposed to reverse engineering this and saying, what is the skill set that I'm using? What skill set do I need to amp up and bulk up in order to create a competitive advantage against the people who aren't thinking this way and aren't prepping in this way? So we've defined improvisation and looked at teams that improvise well. Let's take a different approach to this, and let's look at what stops us from doing this. So you see barriers to communication and collaboration, and that's because at its core, improv is a communication and collaboration-based art form. So expand this just one step further to creativity. What keeps you from being creative? What keeps the people around you from being creative? Expand this one step further to change. What keeps you from being an agent of change, adaptable, nimble, flexible, able to pivot? So by defining one of these, we're actually going to define many of them. Pick one that resonates most with you. Start typing it in right now, on site or virtual with each other. What are barriers to communication, collaboration, creativity, change, adaptability, improv? Fear of judgment. Okay, fear coming out of the gates. Fear of judgment. Silos as well. A siloed mentality. Yes. Old habits. Yes. Rigid processes. Yes. Keep them coming. Silos. Definitely. Yes. Fear of getting it wrong. Another fear coming out there. Antiquated systems. Of course. Matrix environments. Hierarchy. Yes. 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 Give me a few more of them. Overthinking. Definitely. A doubt, which could be a manifestation of overthinking. Standard operating procedures. Poor communication, politics, traditions, fear of failure, another fear coming in there, sacred cows, yes, of course, and I love that phrase. Fear of being judged, another fear, red tape, yes. Poor leadership, definitely, and legislation, of course, cultural differences and not addressing them, and with culture, I'll expand that one step further, potentially to language, internal dialogue, regional dialogue, whatever it might be, lexicon. Wanting everything to be 100% correct and having too many example documents. Yes, of course. Lack of vision, judgment, good. All right, so you predicted actually a lot of what I have here, which is correct because this is a question we've asked for 21 years. 6 continents, dozens of countries, different languages. Everybody around the globe answers this the same exact way. So what we have here on this slide is just some buckets, a way to compartmentalize this. Some larger buckets on the top and some more granular ones at the bottom. And we start with cultural, environmental, mental, emotional, circumstantial, inspirational. Okay, makes sense. What does that mean exactly? Well, it's bureaucracy. It's judgments, that red tape that was mentioned several times in there. It's language, it's process, it's norms, taboos, egos, attitudes, status, conformity pressure. It's fear mentioned over and over again here. So let's shine a light on that. Fear of the unknown, fear of losing control, fear of chaos, the preference to actually sit back and judge rather than get in the pool and generate ideas with everybody else. The fear of what people are going to think of you, or repercussions of saying the wrong thing, or fear of actually saying the wrong thing. And then you start adding distance in. And technology, it is distance. It is technology that we're hearing over and over again. And masks is the one that's come up in the last 365 days. Just that simple act of wearing masks keeps people from wanting to talk with each other. So knowing that these are the barriers that we're facing, 6 continents, dozens of countries, doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter your industry, it doesn't matter the group that you're working with. This is basic, core human communication pitfalls to collaboration, creativity, etc. What we've done here for you today is create a simple acronym, something that you can just easily relate to, lean back on. Again, we're going to go through some experiential learning, so if you feel like you're going in, your stress behaviors are taking you in this environment, rely on this easy acronym as a way just to kind of trigger the, it's, C. All right. Of course, in this format, I don't know if that joke landed at all, so I'll shine a light on the fact that the acronym is actually a joke. The barriers are not a joke. This is, in fact, what we are up against around the globe, and we're not going to run away from it in our little session. We're going to run directly to this, and one of the ways we're going to show you how to take on these barriers to communication, collaboration, creativity, change, adaptability is this great two-word phrase, yes and. Now, yes and comedically or theatrically means something very different than what it means in business improv. So to be as clear as possible, how we're going to use this in our time together, yes does not mean I agree with you. Yes does not mean I'm going to execute an idea that's going to get me in trouble. That's not yes. Yes is I hear you. Yes is I'm trying to understand what you're saying on your terms. Yes is I accept that you're bringing this to me right now. And is the bridge to what you do with it. And is the bridge to your mind, your background, your education, your drive, your passion, your heart, your vision, your voice, your authenticity. So more than anything then, yes becomes thoughtfulness. Yes is you have my undivided attention right now. And is the bridge to how you're thoughtful, how you are present, how you are in the moment. So cling to yes and as we take this old school mental model of divergent thinking and convergent thinking and show you how to use this model as a way to use business improv techniques for you authentically on your terms. Divergent thinking, you have this problem, this challenge, this unexpected opportunity, something happened, and you can't just sit passively by, hold your breath, and wait for it to get over. You have to do something about it. So in divergent thinking, this is the arena in which it's fail early, fail often. You create a space to deliberately make a mess. If it's brainstorming, it's about the sheer volume of ideas. If it's about experimentation, you're breaking it apart, you're putting it back together again. If it's about exploration, in this space, you're looking at it from as many angles as possible. In divergent thinking, you have strategically postponed judgment to another time, and that's convergent thinking. In convergent thinking, you put the critical thinking hat back on. You say, good idea, bad idea. We can't use this idea right now. We don't have the time, the energy, the money. If we do this idea, we're going to get arrested. Let's throw this idea away. Look at this whole process right here as panning for gold. Panning for gold. If you have one chance right now to go to a river and collect gold, and gold metaphorically, it's people, it's process, it's ideas, it's culture, it's team, it's environment, it's relationships. Gold in this example is rocks. Gold. You have one chance. Would you rather go to a river to get gold and pinch it, put 2 fingers and a thumb in the river, pull out this much? I'm like, yeah, that was a great use of my time. Or would you rather stick a big pan in the water, a giant saucer, and pull out as much as humanly possible? That is what divergent thinking is all about. It's about increasing the probability for success on the convergent side. In convergent thinking, you're sifting, you're sorting, you get the weeds out, the muck out, the fool's gold out of the way. Because once you have this gold, people, ideas, process, culture, teams, relationships, rocks, you still have work to do. You have to refine it. You have to process it. Because gold hiding in your sock drawer somewhere has limited real value. It only becomes valuable once you do something with it, and that's the same with people. That's the same with talent. That's the same with ideas and culture. So what we focus on then ultimately is taking these techniques to create psychological safety. This environment in which you take those barriers to communication, collaboration, creativity, change, adaptability, improv, and strategically remove them so that people are not afraid to talk with each other. Now, we're going to unpack this slide in detail a little later. For now, though, what I want you to do is create value, assign some value to this. As this relates to your growth, your career, how important are people to you? How important are relationships to you? Give it an actual numerical value. 1 is, I don't need people. I don't need relationships. Meh. 10 is, yeah, I do. I need them a lot. It's part of my career. It's part of my growth. How important is it? All right, I'm seeing some 10s coming on the side as well. 9s, 10s, 7s. All right, so it's up in that upper echelon there, 8s, 10s, 10s. Good. All right, now hold on to that number. We're going to come back to it a little bit as we start going through these techniques because everything that we're going to focus on in our time together relates to people. It's people skills, it's human connection. This is just a medium through which we're delivering this workshop. Otherwise, the core elements of what we're focusing on are people skills and human connection. So here is what I need from you. This is about to become a ride the bike style program. I said it before. I'm going to ask it again. What's the best way to learn how to ride a bicycle? Get on the bike, fall off the bike and get back on the bike again. And our bike is business improv techniques. And I want you to play them off of me, off the computer. If you're a solo right now, if you have somebody in your environment, even a child, you want to pull them over and say, let's go through these techniques together. Or a significant other in your space, pull anybody over who has that time for the next 45 minutes or so to play off of you and experiment and go through this experiential learning. Otherwise, practice off of me because this will be transferable and it takes practice. So here are the rules of engagement. 1, cling to yes and. Yes and is the road on which we're going to be riding this bicycle and we're going to follow this path all the way to the end. The second thing, live in that divergent space. And in that divergent space, we're just postponing judgment. I want you to postpone judgment 3 ways. First, postpone judgment of the exercises. Whether you've done improv or not done improv before, you're comfortable, uncomfortable, okay, there's a lot I'm uncomfortable with right now. Just embrace these exercises for exactly what they are. Exercises meant to push you. Second way to postpone judgment of anybody else in your space. If you're in your home office and your significant other walks by and looks at you like, what are you doing? Just let them look at you for right now and just postpone judgment of anybody else in your space. Third way to postpone judgment of yourself. It has to start with you. Be the first to get on the bike in your environment. Be the commit to riding this bicycle, commit to falling off, commit to getting back on again and again and again and again and again. If for no other reason, I have a goal for you to walk out of this time together with something that you can use now. Use it right away. Might as well. We're working together. So put something in your back pocket that you can use right away. So postpone judgment of the exercises, postpone judgment of each other, and postpone judgment of yourself. And last, and certainly not least, have fun. This should be a fun time together. All right, so I want you right now to play along with me. I want you to commit to this exercise because we're going to warm up right now. And I'm going to qualify twice for this single exercise. I'm not qualifying for any other exercises. One, I want you to check your energy. Wherever you are right now, let's see if it changes in just a small block of time because the other qualifier is this is the most ridiculous thing we're going to do. This is the most two-dimensional, Muppet-like, cartoon-like exercise we are going to do our entire time together. The rest is driving it home to applicability. And I created this program. I put this exercise at the top of this. Why? Why you're asking? Well, because this is all about commitment. And what you put into this is going to directly affect what you take out of this. And I want you to just commit to this exercise as what it is. It's an exercise, all right? And what we're doing, I think, is in your skill set. I'm going to roll the dice at a roller coaster. We've all ridden roller coasters before, right? Ferris wheels, carousels. This one's a dangerous one. This one's a steep one. I can't see you right now, so I have to trust that you're actually going to do this with me right now. Safety. If this is steep, it's dangerous. So everybody come on with me. Let's lock in an overhead harness. Come on, commit to this right now. I can't tell if you're doing it or not. Might as well commit to it. Put on a lap harness if you're really scared. Put on headgear if you want. I don't know, goggles, mouth guard, whatever makes you feel good. Now we're bouncing. All we're doing is bouncing. Hold on to your gear, all right? Hold on to your lap harness, your shoulder, one of each. I don't know. Now we're just bouncing. We've all bounced before. We know how to bounce. We've been in cars before. We're leaning back. We're bouncing and leaning back. Something we've done before. We know how to do this. I mean, we've fallen asleep on airplanes before. It's a steep roller coaster. We're bouncing and leaning back. We're getting higher. It's higher. It's a wooden roller. Why would you make a wood roller coaster? This is 20. It's cracking. I say it's cracking. We're getting up high up right now. Okay, this isn't bad. Hey, coffee. We should get a cup. Out. Put your hands in the air right now. Everybody, come here with me. We're gonna go this way over here. Oh, we're gonna go this way over here. Now we're gonna go back this way. Why are we doing that? I don't know. We're gonna roll this way now. We're rolling. Okay, good. I'm hoping you did this with me, and if not, we're going to get some comments either way. Lean in right now. Start typing for me. Let's start with, is your energy different now than where it was about 40 seconds ago or so? Is your energy? Yes. Higher, indeed, absolutely. Good. All right, so this is by design. So what I'm going to pack for you, you have whiplash. I hope you're okay. I have confidence that you're going to recover properly. All right, so with this, I'm going to unpack this two ways, all right? Now, as I mentioned before, the way that we link improv to business is through behavioral psychology and cognitive psychology, social psychology, org theory, behavioral economics, decision-making models, all right? The behavioral sciences. So let's first start, though, with the brain science part of this. If you were uncomfortable with this in any capacity, got your heart pumping a little bit, you were nervous, maybe you were laughing a little bit, you were just laughing at me, that's okay. It's all okay because now we're releasing cortisol. We're reducing cortisol, which means we're reducing stress. We're increasing trust through oxytocin. We're releasing endorphins or euphoria. It's releasing dopamine, which is happiness as well. It's white matter. It's gray matter. This is just brain science. What we're doing is chemically altering our brain, which is going to change the way that we're processing information. Ultimately, it means that we're changing the way that we're communicating and collaborating with each other as well. And then we're focusing on the physical side of things. So if you actually went through this exercise with me, your heart starts pumping, your blood starts moving, the oxygen inside the blood reaches the muscle group that needs it the most. The organ, the brain is our muscle. The byproduct of simply supplying oxygen to the brain is an increase in speed in which we could choose to direct it to things like focus and concentration, presence, engagement, adaptability, flexibility, communication, collaboration. All we're doing is getting that heart pumping so the blood's moving so the oxygen reaches where we need it, because energy and attitude are choices. Energy and attitude are choices. And bringing this to a virtual team is imperative that we make choices what we're bringing to the table. Now, this is not to imply that we can always change our energy or we can always change our attitude. This is crazy stuff that's happening. And it hits us at different times and it affects us in different ways. Yet to pretend like energy and attitude are not choices is to take away power, our power, the power to try to change our energy, try to change our attitude, because we do this for other things. If it's hot, we start molting. If it's cold, we start layering up. If it starts raining, we grab umbrellas. Who does this for themselves, though? Who says, I'm not on point? I got to change my energy. I have to change my attitude. It's internal presentation, external presentation. Eyes are on me right now. I have to do something about it because ultimately, especially as leaders, what we bring to the table matters. Whether you call this a contagion effect, a mirror effect, a mimicry effect, the chameleon effect, the little things that we do can make the biggest difference in the way that people around us behave, the way that people around us think about us after we close the computer and move on, the way that they don't think about us or our message. It just disappears with children screaming and dogs barking and the distractions that are going on. So you look at these little influence points, these little nudge tactics as a way to increase engagement of other people and increase the stickiness of your message. And this is simple stuff we're focusing on. Right now, it's approach, energy, and attitude. We're going to get into this framing of language soon enough. I want to run through just a few ideas on how to set ourselves up for success ultimately in these virtual environments. The first, if you're running meetings, if you have that power, define the rules of engagement. Same way you would on site, do them virtually. What are we doing? Why are we doing this? How long are we doing this? Because if you don't define the rules of engagement, there's zero reason to be upset that people aren't following the rules because they don't know the rules. A little bit of clarity goes a long way. For us, if we were using these social platforms like this one, it's turn your cameras on. This is exactly what this medium is for. It's meant to engage each other with the cameras on. And if we don't have to have our cameras on, why are we using this medium? There's nothing wrong with phone calls. Let's go back. There's nothing wrong with a carrier pigeon if you want to go that way. Mix it up. Otherwise, if you're going to use this specific medium, turn the cameras on. And this is important. As a leader, if you say turn your cameras on, some people do and some people don't, boom. It's no longer a level playing field. Now, some people have to have their cameras on, some people don't have to have. Why? Why is that the case? And what are they doing when they don't have their cameras on? You have no idea what they're doing because you can't see them. So turning the cameras on actually acts as an accountability practice as much as it acts as a way to level the playing field. All right, the next point to this one is just adjust the lighting. Just kind of camera work 101, adjust the camera a little bit. What do I mean by that? If the lighting's off in some way, well, it's kind of distracting. And why? Why would you even do that? No one really does that one. What we see, though, more often than not, big windows behind us, right? Bay windows, this French doors, light from cascading from above, and what that creates is a shadow. It creates a silhouette, and we can't see the person on the other side of the computer, which negates the reason why we're actually using this medium in the first place. So let's go back to point number 2. We have to actually be on camera, then let's adjust the lighting. And what we're talking about is a counterbalance. We're not talking about necessarily putting shades over the windows, maybe a little bit of a dimmer on that side. Otherwise, if you have enough light on this side, it will offset anything that's happening anywhere else. So a little counterbalance takes place. And if you cannot adjust your lighting, adjust your computer. Most of us do not live in 1993. Most of us do not have desktop computers that we use every second of the day. We have mobility. So have you ever seen this before in a meeting? Why? Why does this exist? There's no work that it takes to do this. Nothing. That took no effort whatsoever to do this. So we have this great mobility that if we can't adjust the lighting, let's adjust our computer so that we can see each other, which is the purpose of using these mediums. And then look at the camera. Look at the red dot, look at the green dot. This is how you engage each other. It should not negate cheating down and looking at nonverbal communication, the way the body's moving, etc. At the same time, this is how you drive points. This is how you increase engagement. Now, turning yourself off mute has an asterisk to it because children will melt down, dogs will bark. There's a lot of stuff that's outside of our control in these volatile environments in which we often have to work. So if you turn yourself on mute, that's okay as long as you're on camera because we can see you if you're on camera. And then bring a little pop of energy. Bring some kind of energy. Talk with your body, talk with your hands, look with your eyes, smile, little stuff like this. Stand up like I'm doing as well. It actually brings energy. Energy begets energy. So what you bring to the table, whether it's that mirror effect or they're just inspired by you, can make a difference. Then cut the multitasking. Just cut it across the board. Especially because a lot of people, when they're not on camera, will be checking emails or doing anything else. Cut the multitasking. If that means you cut the meeting down for 15, 20 minutes so that people are here, great. Be here, be in the moment, be present. That's the purpose of the meeting in the first place. And then let's go back to this one. Know the best medium. The reason why we're burned out with these mediums, it's because it's misused, it's overused, and it's abused. Variety is the spice of life. Mix it up. Now, keep it moving though. This medium is not meant for long meetings. This is like swipe left, swipe right type of medium. This is like designed for this reality where children will melt down and dogs will bark, and control what you can control. Yourself, your energy, your attitude, a little framing of language. Otherwise, adapt, improvise, roll with the punches. The last part of this though, stay on until you're off the camera. I'm going to jump forward to the Olympics as I am a fan of the Olympics. If anybody likes the Olympics or likes gymnastics for that matter, stick the landing. That's what I mean by this one. If you give a great presentation, you're running a great meeting, stick the landing. Stay on until you are off the camera because whatever you're doing is the last resonating impact point that's going to bounce around their heads, which could change your message. It could change your brand. Ultimately, it's not just what you say and how you say it, it's what they walk away understanding. And without that extra elbow time that we have with each other at the water cooler, at the pop machine, grabbing a cup of coffee, at the pub, we don't know. We don't have that social learning opportunity, so we have to make sure our messages are on point when they close the computer and get distracted instantly. What are they remembering? What are they not remembering? And are they remembering anything at all? All right, so let's try this on for size. What I'm going to ask you to do right now, if you have a partner in your space, play off your partner, please. If you don't have a partner, then go off of me, right off of the computer, because I'm going to give you an opportunity right here to tell a story. This is a postponement of judgment exercise, personal communication. You are it. Now, as soon as you get this gift from me, this offer, this unexpected opportunity, I want you to enthusiastically say the word yes, and then I want you to energetically tell the story like you've told this story 1,000 times. I want you to cling to that two-word phrase, yes and, as a mental model to push past speed bump, push past dead ends or roadblocks. I want you to use yes and to tell this story in real time. And you don't know for how long you're going to be telling this story out loud to the computer. I do want this to be out loud to somebody in your space, a child, a significant other. You're just going to tell this story in real time to somebody else or tell it to me. And I want you to focus on energy, commitment, and engagement. Energy, commitment, engagement. Tell the story at a high energy level and commit to telling the story at a high energy level and commit to engaging the person in your space. Commit to engaging me on the other side of the computer screen until I pull you out of this exercise. Now, will it help you to see a quick demo of how I would run this exercise or how I would actually do this with energy and commitment and engagement at 12:08 a.m. Eastern Standard Time? Yes, please. Elizabeth or anyone, give me a suggestion. Somebody fill in the blank for me here, and I'll show you energy and commitment and engagement for me. You are a chef. Yes, I am a chef. I'm not a great chef. Let me be really clear here. I graduated from culinary school online, and it was a course that I helped create. Essentially, I gave myself a certification, and I got a badge, and I call myself a chef. I have a chef's jacket. I cut off 2 of my fingers. I shouldn't probably show you this. Like I said, not a good chef. I'm not sure where they are. I made a pie. They might be in the pie. Okay, so what you see from me is whether you like the story or not like the story, I'm committing to it. I'm committing to telling the story at a high energy level, and I'm committing to using yes and to link the mind to the mouth and just let the words come out of my mouth right now, all right? And that's exactly what I want you to do with this exercise. So commit to it, energy, commitment, engagement, cling to yes and, start telling your story right now. You are a superhero. You are a superhero. Tell your story to me, tell your story to somebody in the space. You are a superhero. Yes and, yes and, yes and, go. Good. Keep yes anding. Yes and. Good. A little bit more. All right, good. Now, wherever you left off, I just want you to put a pause in this just for a second, because what I want you to do is continue to tell your story, and this time I want you to edit yourself while you create. I want you to judge everything that comes out of your mouth. I want you to pause often, correct yourself, apologize, as a matter of fact. Apologize to the people you're telling the story to. Every time you make a mistake, apologize to me as well. I want you to be 100% perfect 100% of the time as you're telling the story in real time. So continue telling the story. You are a superhero. Judge yourself every step of the way. Go. Good, judge yourself. Remember, be correct. Always be correct. Good, just a little bit more. All right, good. Wherever you are, that's where we're going to hit the pause button on this one. So the question I have for you right now is really, go to the text, please. Chat in with me right now. Was there a difference between round 1 and round 2? And if so, what was the difference between round 1 and round 2? Was there a difference between the first part of the story and the second part? And if so, what was the difference between round 1 and round 2? Made silly mistakes, confidence, authority. Round 2 had a bit of negativity. Energy changes. Yes. I'm a water warrior. I manage supply people with water. I apologize for not keeping up. Oh, no worries. No worries. Or that could be your story apologizing as well. Either way, I like it. Good. No flow in round 2. All right, so this is what we see. What we need to do ultimately with this environment and this style of thought is create this space where psychological safety exists, right? There were a lot of pauses. Round 1 was full of energy. Round 2 was slow and low. Round 1 was improv. Round 2 was slower. Round 1 was quick and dirty. Round 2, slower. We're hearing speed as a part of the challenge that we're facing right here, and too much thought process. So when you look at this mental model right here, this divergent thinking is exactly that, a mental model. So look at the way that, for example, have you ever prepared for a presentation and somebody asks you a question you weren't prepared for? Or in the presentation, somebody gives you some resistance, some pushback? This right here Though the guise of that last exercise is storytelling, it's really how do we react, adapt, and communicate in real time, especially when given the unexpected. Are we able to postpone judgment? Postpone judgment of ourselves as we're dealing with this problem, this challenge, this unexpected opportunity. So in this divergent process right here, this is a great way to start for ourselves. Just postpone judgment of ourselves, create this environment in which it's okay to make mistakes, just get the ideas out of our head, create flow, create momentum, even add speed to this as well. Look at this as well as a way we write pitches, as a way that we write proposals. Ultimately, we'll clean it up over on this conversion side and come up with the right answer. Yet, if you edit while you create, you're not only going to limit the ideas you come up with and how creative you are, you're going to limit the people around you as well. So creating this structure makes a big difference because, again, we're focusing on simple things. Approach. How are we setting ourselves for success? Energy, attitude, the construct versus behavior, and then this little framing of language, yes and, is a mental model. We're going to get into a dialogue exercise. So to remind you how we define yes and, yes does not mean I agree with you. Yes does not mean I'm going to execute a bad idea. That's not yes. Yes is I'm open to a bad idea. I mean, in that divergent side, I'm open to a great idea and a bad idea. I'm open to any idea whatsoever. And is what you do with it. And is the bridge to your mind, your background, your education, your drive, your vision, your voice, you. So once again, yes is thoughtfulness. Yes is you have my undivided attention right now. And is the bridge to how you're thoughtful, how you're present, how you're in the moment. So cling to yes and as we get into a dialogue. Now, if you have somebody in your space, please bring them over to do this yes and conversation. And if you're solo, I want you to play off yourself like you have a dual personality or simulate a conversation in your head, really. All right, so here are the rules of engagement. Every single sentence must start with yes and. Every sentence must start with yes and if you're with a partner, it should be an even back and forth with the other person. If you're going solo, it should be simulated and even back and forth. So one simple yes and sentence at a time, no questions. Questions are completely forbidden. They are off the table. Not because questions are bad. Questions are great. We are eliminating questions as a brain game. Because a lot of people will just deflect with questions. And some people will try to steer with questions. And some people will actually disengage to ask the question. I don't want you to disengage. I don't want you to steer. And I don't want you to deflect. I want this to be an even back and forth, one yes and statement at a time. I'm speaking a little quickly for the purpose of driving content in an intensive in our time together, yet speed is not a variable with you. So you could slow the pace of this down. And remember, it's thoughtfulness. So it could sound like this. Yes. And this is what I'm going to say to you. Oh, yes. Implied, I hear you. And this is how I'm responding. So really focus on the pace of this even back and forth with each other. Now, speed is not on the table. Energy and attitude are. And I want you to blend energy and attitude to make passion. This should be a very passionate yes and conversation. So you're going to alternate the right to speak back and forth, one passionate yes and statement at a time. Now, I'm going to take a suggestion that I got from you before and show you what this could look like. As a yes and conversation simulated. I see from Edgar, entrepreneur. So this is what a yes and conversation could look like if I was simulating this as one person with a little bit of energy, a little bit of pop. Yes, and I am an entrepreneur. Yes, and in 1999, I bet there were not too many people linking improvisation to business. Yes, and in fact, in the early 2000s, many people told me flat out that I was foolish trying to link improvisation to business. Yes, and I'm curious if that jeopardized your performing career. Yes, and ultimately, it drove people closer to me as I was an elite performer and then working with elite business schools, it allowed me to find new paths. Yes, and I bet you're a horrible chef. Yes, and I lost 2 fingers. Well, okay, I'll call back. We'll see if that worked or not. All right, that's what I want you to do. If you're soloed, simulate this conversation. If you're with somebody else, I want you to grab them and work up them. Every single statement must start with yes, and. The topic to inspire you is food. Food is the topic to inspire you. Okay, yes, and, yes, and, yes, and, yes, and, yes, and. Go, please. Good. Keep yes anding. Good. Keep it up. A little while longer. Good. Just a bit longer. All right, now what I want you to do is continue your conversation immediately from where you left off. This time, what I want you to do is replace yes and with yes but, all right? So we're going to replace yes and with yes but. So every single sentence must start with yes but, and this is an even back and forth with each other. All the other rules of engagement are the same, other than every sentence now starts with yes but. So questions are still off the table for all the reasons I mentioned before. Speed is not a variable, yet we're focusing on blending energy and attitude to make passion. So I want this to be a very passionate conversation. I want this to be a passionate yes but conversation. So you're going to alternate the right to speak back and forth, one yes but statement at a time, immediately from where you left off, either with somebody in your space or simulate this with yourself. Yes but, yes but, yes but, yes but. All right, keep it coming. Yes but. Good, we've moved some over to the yes but conversation in chat. I like that as well. Continue to yes but, either through chat, off the computer with me, with somebody in your space. Yes but, yes but, yes but. A little bit longer. Yes but, yes but. All right, good. Wherever you left off, that's where we're going to hit pause right now. So my question for you, and please go to chat to answer this question. Was there a difference in this one conversation, either literal conversation or simulated conversation, when you were in yes but versus yes and? And if so, what was the difference in yes but versus yes and? Was there a difference in yes but versus yes and? And if so, what was the difference? Start punching on the keys. Who could be the first to give me an answer here? Yes, but you need to tell more about your organization. Oh, I think that was another comment. Yes, but was more negative than yes and. But gives the impression of negativity. Yes, but was negative. Yes, but the GMOs are dangerous to your health. Of course they are, yes. It seemed confrontational. Yes, easier to use, but then because we're so used to saying but. Okay, all right. It's easier because you're used to saying it. It's limited the conversation. All right, we're getting a lot of what yes but is. What is it in yes and for you? More expressive in yes but than yes and. I wonder what kind of expression. Yes, as I'm getting negative, negative, negative in yes but. Yes and was easier but was more difficult. Yes and opens up the conversation and yes but implies disagreement. So yes and implies agreement. Yes but was sarcastic. Yes and is more positive. Yes and led to positivity, energy, allowing for imperfections. Yes, but has more opportunity to resolve. It's conditional though. Yes, and you're just trying to justify wrong things. Yes, and look for ways to support was said. Yes, but was disagreement. Okay, so we're hearing consistently on one side that we've done this exercise and asked this question every single program I've ever taught in 21 years. 6 continents, dozens of countries, different languages, close to 200,000 people have been asked this question, and everyone answers it pretty much the same way that you're typing in text right there. So I use a military axiom to sum it up, and that axiom is but eliminates everything said before through restrictions, denials, contradictions, steering, and it ends additive. It's agreement. It's inclusive. It's alignment. And there's a couple things that I want to shine a light on. One, we have to at least consider when you're looking at framing of language, because that's all this is, yes and versus yes but, and does that affect the way a conversation unfolds? Does that affect the way that we participate in this conversation? You have to at least consider construct, situation, relationship, the people we're hanging out with. Because surely how you behave with your best mates, grabbing a pint or coffee, the language you're using, the beverage you're consuming, the clothes you're wearing, likely wildly different than in front of key stakeholders, internal or external, the language we're using, maybe the beverage we're consuming, the clothes that we're wearing. It's all about that construct, situation, relationship. So for me, what's important to understand is that it feels this way. And we know through behavioral economics, we're irrational when it comes to decision making, and the way we feel influences our decisions. And but feels like a confrontation. It feels like an exclusion, and feels like a compromise. It feels inclusive. And if anyone's grappling with that, please answer this question, at least to yourself. Who told you to behave that way in yes but? I gave you the same setup in yes and versus yes but, and this is what happens. Most of the time we start going to the negative because but's a trigger word for most of us. We can either catch it consciously or subconsciously. It just sets us off, and we feel like we have to do a point counterpoint, or we have to start going negative or protect ourselves or negate somebody else. And all it is framing of language. Yes and versus yes but. And I've said this a couple of times here. Yes and is not yes. Yes is just that dead end agreement. Yes. Boom. It's over. And is the thing that keeps it inclusive. It keeps momentum building. It keeps the alignment. It keeps inclusion. And no is absolutely appropriate. Right place, right time, right reasons. That needs to be said. That guillotine needs to drop. And there's times that you can use yes and to get to a no, and other times that even if no's the answer, it's important to use yes and to keep the conversation going, to get the dialogue opened up. And what I often do is this. When I know no's the answer already, I say, yes, I hear you bringing this to me, and walk me through why this is important to you. Walk me through how you made those decisions or why you thought those were the right decisions. And from this, I gather information, I get understanding of what's being said, and ultimately, when no is said, the person who talks to me feels like they're being heard. They feel like I took time to understand them before I just shot no down, because no for a lot of leaders is a default. We just go to it so quickly. And we don't understand that simple things that we do affect other people. And when you talk about virtual teams, you have to understand this is so important. This little thing like framing of language, in addition to energy and attitude, it affects how people want to communicate or don't want to communicate with us, especially in this short bite mentality in which we are currently living right now. So we did this before as individual postponed judgment. You are a superhero. Can you get out of your own way, one way or another? What happens when we add those elements of judgment in place? Then we looked at a dialogue, interpersonal. Yes and versus yes but. Let's move this over into this group environment. You may have seen a quick look at this before. What I want you to do, if you have people around you, one or more people, play off of them in this exercise. If you're solo, just simulate this in your head, how this might go. I want you to plan a party, okay? This has been a rough year and a half for many of us, and we need a good party. We need a great party, as a matter of fact, with everything that you bring to the table in planning this party. I just want you to start every single solitary idea with yes but. All right, we're going to plan a party a month from now. Every single solitary idea starts with yes but. Every idea must start with yes but. You have less than a minute to plan this, so add some sense of urgency to this and come up with as many ideas as you can. Every single solitary idea starts with yes but. Go, plan your party. Yes but, yes but, yes but, yes but, yes but, yes but. Come on, how many ideas can you come up with? Yes but, yes but. Come on, a few more ideas. Yes, but. Yes, but. All right, good. I'm going to pause you right there. Now let's move over into part 2 of this exercise. Every single solitary idea must start with yes and, all right? I think you knew this was coming. Every idea must start with yes and. Every idea must start with yes and. If you're in a group, if you're simulating this brainstorming session, party planning committee on your own, the party's in a month, and you have to create some urgency behind this. We're doing this in less than a minute. So how many ideas can you come up with in less than a minute? Go. Yes and, yes and, yes and, yes and, yes and. Bring ideas. Go, go, go. Good. Keep them coming. All right. That's the same length of time. So let's break this down. You come to me over in the chat again, please. Was there a difference between round 1 and round 2? And if so, what was the difference between round 1 and round 2? Same question I've asked for the other exercises, really. Was there a difference between round 1 and round 2? And if so, what was the difference between round 1 and round 2? No progress in round 1. Round 2 was positive. It was constructive. Round 1 kills the ideas of even the party materializing. Yes, and makes it more fun. The hype was better in yes and. Round two was easier, more spontaneous. It had more energy and it kept leveling up as well. It was more fun, higher creativity in round two. Let's break this down in a different way. In which round did you come up with the most ideas? Round one or round two? Because remember, that was the object. Come up with the most ideas. Round one or round two? Round two, the second round. Two, the second round again. Two, 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 two. All right, you spent the same amount of time in round one versus round two, and yet you came up with more ideas in round two. So now we're talking about time optimization, okay? Now the next part, one or two, you answer this question for me. Who do you want to hang out with? Which group do you just want to hang out with and plan this party? One or two? One or two? Two. All right, so now we're talking about morale, intrinsic motivation. So when you start thinking about your high-functioning virtual teams, and I didn't mention this before, I should tell you that business improv has always been virtual for 21 years. New York, Chicago, LA, North Carolina, these are the techniques that we use. And so for this specific exercise, a brainstorming session, ideation session, idea sharing session, a collaborative conversation, what we find then is that you create environments that are psychologically safe and people want to be in them. They want to participate. They want to contribute. And that is a high-functioning virtual team where everybody's aligned in what the agenda is. Everybody feels like their voices are heard. Everybody feels like they have the opportunity to and power to contribute inside of a team. And so that exercise is we spent the same amount of time in both. We optimize our time differently, and it creates this intrinsic motivation where people want to be there. So this idea of how we affect people has to be front and center with how we're creating our teams. So I asked you at the top of this, how important are people to you, relationships to you, your growth, your career? We got a lot of lots of 10s, some 9s, even some 7, 8s in there as well. Upper echelon is what we were talking about there. So as that relates to people, as the team relates to communication, collaboration, cohesion, chemistry, trust, morale, it's important to look at this from the people side. Because that's all we're focusing on is people. It's human connection. I can't stress enough that everything we're focusing on transcends proximity. It transcends medium. You could do these techniques in person. You could do these techniques on the phone. You could do these techniques through this style of medium because it's all about the people. And the way that we approach it has a three-pronged approach, which is experiential. Let's ride the bike. Let's go through this. And you'll be surprised at how much that chemistry still comes together because it's still like a team building type of thing. Even though we don't have the elbow time with each other, we see it, we feel it, we see each other doing it as well. Then you pin it down with the behavioral sciences. This is the behavioral economics model. This is the behavioral psychology model. This is the org theory model. And then you focus on people, because that's not only how we're going to get through this together, that's how we create high functioning virtual teams with each other. And then of course, if you have fun, you increase the probability of having this learning become transferable and sustainable, the greater the impact. And I can't stress enough, it's simple stuff. Energy, attitude, a little framing of language as a mental model, a little framing of language as a dialogue piece, a little framing of language as a group technique, and ultimately using a model like this to separate why we're doing something in this capacity versus when are we whittling down, fine-tuning, editing, so that we create this environment in which people want to participate. You take those barriers to communication, collaboration, creativity, change, improv that you defined, that I supported in a slide, and you remove them strategically, thoughtfully, intentionally by design. So you use yes and as a simple technique to create awareness, focus, concentration, presence at a high level. It's listening to understand, not listening just to respond. It's TSTMF, if anybody's looking at that one down at the 4 o'clock plaque on this slide. Think slow to move fast. Think slow to move fast. This drives presence. This drives being in the moment at a very, very high level. We're taught in Chicago Improv early, slow the brain down. Be here, be in the moment. Don't think about anything else. Don't think about where you want it to go. Be here with each other. So this is all about postponing judgment. This links to empathy. It links to agility and engagement. This links to respect. Creating this environment it's a basic human desire to be understood. Basic human desire to be understood or believe that we're being understood. So this is dignity we're talking about, putting in place for people so that they feel like they're contributing, their voice is being heard. It all drives to relationship building, which means not all relationships are great 100% of the time. Sometimes they're abrasive, they have some friction, even harder than that. And so, how do we manage that conflict? How do we take a loss and turn it into a lead? How do we take something that's hard or difficult and spin that around so that it's a growth opportunity, a joint problem solving opportunity? This creates this environment in which all of us feel like we're being heard. We feel like we're being understood. So we're going to get into the Q&A portion of this momentarily. This is the tip of the iceberg of what Business Improv has been doing for 21 years and virtually since 2017, so the last 4.5 almost years. So it starts with this virtual classroom, and then we move into online engagement, the blended model, the open enrollment stuff that we've put together, and huge social impact pieces that we're doing, giving back to organizations that need to figure out how to give back to other people that can pay it forward. So before I walk you through this part of what we do in any capacity, or the larger capacity anyway, I want to pose this thought to you. And I want to use this as a bridge to our conversation. That if you have questions, if there's things that I can do to support you, if there's a way that I can put you in a position to use these techniques, I want to. So bridging over to a dialogue, and I see there's some questions that have popped up already, and I can start with these. I want to address this, what we've been going through with the people, relationships, connection, as this relates to creating psychological safety, high functioning virtual teams, intrinsic motivation. How does this matter to you? How does this matter in your world? And I'll address the quick question that's popped up here in chat, and we'll go from there. And keep your questions coming, please. I want you to use these tools and techniques. Please post questions. Oh, for Bob, that wasn't a question for me. It's more of a prompt for you. And as you see as well from the WBS group, we're creating an opportunity right now for you to get our online course for $99, $150 savings if you use the code YesAnd, and that will take you over to that online program. So any questions? Kiashan?
I see we've got a question from Devet, Bob. How do we get in contact for this course as a team building? Do you want to address that? I think that speaks more to you offering this for Devet and their organization.
Absolutely. So if you want to bring Business Improv in for an event, and we run on everybody hours around the globe, so it doesn't matter what time it is in New York, Chicago, LA, we'll run off of Johannesburg time. All right, so you can reach us a couple different ways. Come to businessimprov.com. You can take a picture of the QR code, and that will bring you to our community, and you get these free downloads that come with it as well. That improvisational communication course that was mentioned, if you come to the website, you'll go to the improv course, and you type in the coupon code, that will bring you Yes And. Otherwise, reach out to us, and we'll set up a conversation, figure out how to support you. Because what we've done in the last hour plus is, we are at the top of the iceberg, tip. And what we focus on, whether it's the courses that we put together, the book that I have back here, the online program, is ride the bike style learning. That's number one. And number two, impact. Use these tools and techniques. They should be easy, they should be accessible, and you should be able to twist and turn them to make them authentic to you on your terms for your team, your company, your organization, your clients' needs as well. Because keep in mind, there's a lot of clients out there who have not yet gained a lot of comfort through this medium. And if you could put them in the position to succeed talking with you, that's the key, right? Have people communicating with us, collaborating with us, challenging us, bringing ideas to the table, then we increase the probability of that relationship getting stronger. All right, so let's see here. Wish we could transport this methodology to making countries be high functional, especially where trust levels between cultures is very low. Yes, I agree, 100%. I'm fortunate to actually be fighting that fight, which I hope to be a good fight here in America, working with a couple of senators trying to get people talking with each other. there are some massive mountains out there that if some of us are worth climbing, we at least increase the probability of making change happen and helping that change take place. If we don't try, though, then that certainly challenges the opportunity for growth and change. Hey, I'm glad it was fun.
Doesn't sound like you're getting a lot of questions, Bob. A lot of compliments.
Well,
I see Colleen has got a question.
Yes.
So when we set the rules of engagement, we can request only yes and statements to get ideas flowing, and that's posed as a question.
Okay, so thank you, Colleen. So as a intensive, as a program, there's some strict dialogue structure that needs to be put into place in order to weave these exercises correctly in the limited period of time we have. There is power and benefit, though, to encouraging people to make statements as opposed to questions. Because what normally happens, especially in a collaborative conversation, when people start asking questions, this is where we get into those rabbit holes that we just start diving down into something too quickly, and we don't need to deconstruct it. We don't need to question it yet. That's over on that convergent side. In the divergent side, we just need to talk with each other. And so questions for a lot of people as well can come off or be interpreted as judgment. And so this then will take those barriers to communication, collaboration, put people in their heads. So encouraging people to use yes and statements is a way for a free exchange of information. Now, the most clever people will start reframing the questions in the form of statements, yes and statements. And what you'll find, though, is that it will not come across as judgment and it will continue the conversation. So just that simple act of yes and starts triggering us like but does, and it does it in such a way that we want to respond to somebody else, because ultimately we're providing information by making statements. When you ask questions, you defer to somebody else to provide the information. And so we're looking for everybody to participate equally. And that's an important part of any collaborative conversation, brainstorming session, team building, connection, level the playing field.
So I'm going to use yes and for the next two questions.
All right.
Yes and, Bomb. Yes and, how do you decrease the probability of teams reverting to their normal behaviors after going to this program?
Yes. So this is where, for me, when you come through our program, we specialize in transferability and sustainability. That pull through is an imperative for the organizations that want the change to actually take place. Because there's some who are just like, I just want to see a team building experience, and we want it grounded in some learning, yet we don't really want change to take place. We just want a bonding experience, which is great. It's fair, especially now when morale is low. Just a chance to kind of decompress a little bit and have some fun and laugh with each other. There's something to that. Now, if you are looking for that pull through, this is where we really specialize. We specialize in behavior change and culture change, and we prove that over and over again. We put data analytics in place so we can actually show how and when and why we change that behavior or change that culture ultimately. We have assessments that we've been working on and collaborating with assessment companies to put those in place as well to show that change that takes place. The book is written as essentially the textbook for all of our programs. So that as well, I said ride the bike style, it's very prescriptive. Use these techniques in this location. This is how you set them up. This is how you hit pushback. When you get that resistance from other people, look for these pitfalls, look for these opportunities. So everything that we do is really focused on for those who want to change behavior, change culture, and create, especially if some of the culture is a little bit toxic, there's infighting, we hear different groups of people, right side, left side of the brain, that they don't want to speak up, they don't want to talk. If you want to reverse engineer that, then it has to be intentional, strategic. It's got to be by design. And you have to look to set that up in an incremental way, step-by-step process, so that ultimately they see the leadership behaving this way. Because if the leadership doesn't behave this way, the probability for culture change is challenged, to be polite about it. We have to have leaders walk the talk. And so setting the leaders up for success, that could range anywhere from individual coaching, small group challenges, large group challenges. The social impact piece really plays a big part of this as well. If there's a charity or an organization that the whole group can rally behind toward a cause and drive toward that, or similarly, if there's something organizational, like we need to really focus on this client, or we need to focus on how to change our culture, getting a building build-in culture. Everybody's contributing to the culture change and the behavior change, increases the probability for commitment and ownership of these techniques as well. So it's got to be incremental, it's got to be consistent, and leadership has to be doing this as well. And leadership might not be the highest leaders, it could be managers and senior managers. The mid-level managers can make change happen.
Fantastic. Thanks for that response, Bob. We've got another 2 questions. So one is from Sarita. And this links back to the slide that you presented with regard to best practices for maximizing your effectiveness in virtual teams. So Sarita asks, how would you convince someone who does not want their camera on to put their camera on?
Yes. One, I think we start from an empathetic base. Okay, there's this crazy stuff going on, and we are forcing ourselves into other people's homes, and we have to respect the fact that for some who are still working from their stay-at-home offices, it could be chaotic. It could be uncontrollable with dogs or with children or cats walking by or whatever it is that could cause some kind of disruption. So I would throw out the idea of empathy, starting there, asking, as leaders, asking that great emotional intelligence based question of how are you? How are you doing right now? What's going on in your world? Get that understanding in that spirit of divergent thinking. Put yourself in that mindset of collecting gold, whatever you want to call this, of talk to me. Let me get a better understanding of why you cannot put your camera on. Because as a manager, as a leader, director, whomever you might be, if you're saying put your cameras on and they're not, there's some danger that's attached to it. I mean, they're not following an order. They're not respecting what you're saying to them. And that danger can go into the team as the playing field's not level. And you really don't know what they're doing. If they're late to responding, if you're cold calling them and they're not, responding quickly. So you have to level that playing surface. And I am a big fan of saying, come as you are. If we don't have to dress up, if it's not a collared shirt day, okay, wear a t-shirt that says I was stupid and an arrow pointed up. I'm fine with that as long as you're present, as long as you're engaged, as long as you're active, and as long as you're not acting stupidly, you're acting intelligently, then great. I don't care what you're wearing. Wear big crazy foam hat if you want to. And keep in mind, respect. We want to wear respectful clothes, especially if you're going to get up, put pants on. Otherwise, if it's a sit-down meeting, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have a messy environment. It doesn't matter if your children come sit on your lap. What we need with this medium is to connect with each other and engage each other. And maybe you'll learn as well that, there's so much Zoom. Okay, great. We're going to have strategic meetings where we have to be on Zoom or Teams or whatever the platform is. And then other meetings, we're going to loosen that up a little bit. We're going to go back to conference calls. We're going to go back to little touch bases. So I think that variety is the spice of life comment that I mentioned also empowers leaders to really enforce the rule of cameras on when it's time to have the cameras on. And I would also say be careful how you're using this medium, because a lot of people are still reporting out in this with 8-point font bullets or 11-point font. It's like, why? Why can't you send this to me in an email? Why do we have to look at the screen for this? Send it to me in advance. Tell me to be prepared for this. And then when we get together, it's the opportunity to look at each other and connect with each other, because that's really what this platform is for.
Does it keep some taking away from that context is very important, and your understanding as well. So thanks for that response. It looks like this is the final question that we're getting for now, and this is definitely a question that that I can resonate with from Sakitha. How does one sound authentic and not come across as wanting to control? And I believe this relates to yes and. So how does one sound authentic and not coming across as though you want to gain control and you're trying to kind of manipulate the other person?
All right. I'm going to approach this 2 ways. One, as okay, there's a postponement of judgment that's happening here. Let's start with practice, the simple aspect. Practice, 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 practice. The more you practice this, the more comfortable you get with it, the more comfortable you are with it, the more authentic it will be with you. And ultimately, with that authenticity, you might not always use the literal 2 words yes and to mean yes and. So you switch your brain over into the yes and philosophy, where you're focusing on possibility and potential as opposed to reasons why we can't do something, like reasons why it can't work. So yes and authentically might not sound like yes and. It could sound like, ooh, that's interesting. Tell me more. That's a version of yes and that's just now authentic to your voice. Also, in that spirit of EQ, I would say vulnerability should come into place. Talk to people about this. If this is a technique that you see being effective, grab an ally and say, I'm going to try to use this technique with you, and this is the reason why, this is what I'm trying to get out of this, and have them ask questions. Like, I understood that. I didn't understand what you just said. Why are we using this technique in the first place? Well, what's the difference between yes, but? You can even elevate that to have them give you pushback if you feel like you're going to work with a team that's going to give you a lot of resistance. And I'll throw out the idea that we've worked with so many engineers, so many scientists out there. There's groups of people who are solutions driven. So right away they're like, just tell me the answer and I'll tell you how to get there, as opposed to a process like this, which is more based in discovery and trying to figure out the next levels of things, figure out how to get to blue ocean or blue sky thinking, whatever you want to frame it, push the envelope. So playing off of somebody else, an ally, not only gives you the opportunity to link the mind to the mouth and practice and get comfortable leading these techniques and even dealing with pushback, it creates an ally. It creates now an opportunity for you to go into a meeting not as a solo person. You're going in with two or maybe three other people, a couple people, whoever you're practicing with, because they've already understand why you're doing this and they've gone through the ringer a few times. And so now you have a little bit of force. And so if you're getting unexpected pushback, it's not you alone doing this. You have a small team. It's like, I see why the value of this and I see why you're saying that. And that's how I approached it as well. When Bob came to me with this thing, I was very skeptical. I didn't understand it. And now I understand it. I'm still not totally comfortable with it yet. We're still figuring out how to ride this bike without training wheels. And it's not the first time riding the bike that you're going to get the great experience of this. It's the 50th or 500th time riding the bike. It's all about those reps. And that's ultimately what we're going for, muscle memory, so that you can get off the bike, stay off of it for a long time, and then you get back on it, maybe a little wobbly at first, yet you start riding the bike right away. And that's the same with these techniques.
Fantastic. I love the bicycle analogy, by the way. It doesn't look like we have any more questions. Maybe we'll just take a minute or two just to see if there's any additional questions that pop up from the rest of the alumni. Maybe while we're waiting for that, let me take the opportunity just to thank you, Bob. I think this was a fantastic webinar. Really enjoyed it, and I love the experiential kind of approach here. I said this to you previously, I'll say it again. I think I can speak for most of us on the call when I say we can actually feel your energy coming through our screens, right? So it's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. For everyone who's joined today, thank you so much. We love the attendance. As the Alumni Association, we also would love feedback from you, right? So please reach out to us, let us know how you're finding these webinars, give us the feedback, and we would definitely incorporate it. I'm looking at the chat, doesn't look like there's any additional questions. Looks like a lot of people found the session to be extremely beneficial, Bob.
That's awesome. May I walk everyone through those offerings very quickly then, just to
Please do.
show what we can do with this? And thank you for that as well. All right, so as mentioned, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We have multiple approaches that we've taken. We are doing some on-site engagements right now as well. For those who are, that didn't work very well. For those who are really looking to understand this from a virtual aspect, especially with what's going on, our virtual classrooms, we range anywhere from high-functioning virtual teams to, we created a 6-course model for the FAA Managers Association, which started with high-functioning virtual teams. We went over to creativity, innovation, and agility. Leadership was the next level after that, and presence. The next level after that was conflict management and difficult conversations. The next level after that was virtual sales and virtual selling of ideas, and then ultimately virtual culture. And those are just 6 of the courses that we've created. That was specifically for the FAA, for air traffic controllers and tech ops people. From the virtual arm, though, move over to online training. This is an async program. You buy it, you own it, you go at your own pace. The discount code is going to get you 150 US dollars off of it. So it's a $99 program, $249 value for $99. And when you walk out of this program, if you download the worksheets, the focus of the program of improvisational communication is on communication, collaboration, creativity, change, dealing with conflict, and ultimately creating a culture that sustains this. And it comes with worksheets. And if you download the worksheets and actually go through this program, you will walk out with a tangible action plan that says, in your own words, this is how you will use these tools and techniques for development and communication, collaboration, creativity, change, etc. Now, what we've done in the virtual setting is create blended models. The blended model is when an organization, a company hires up and they say, we want to use the async program as a base training. And then when we come to you, masterclass work. And we want this masterclass work to relate directly to whatever the challenge is that we're facing. And we take time to learn every organization as well, so that we use the language, we have respect the culture, etc. This has moved over into open enrollment programs where we have people from all over the world signing up to programs to be part of a community practicing in a practice field mentality these techniques and developing their network, expanding it in a safe way where everybody's working together. And of course, as mentioned, we can prove this. We're science driven, we're data driven, and we ultimately want to show you how and why these tools and techniques work. So if there's a social impact part of this, that's a major drive to us as well, to always figure out how to help people so that they can help other people as well. And we'd love to have a conversation.
Fantastic, Bob. I can definitely see how that would be extremely beneficial just based off the webinar that we have today. So thank you for sharing your offering with us as well.
Thank you for allowing me.
Ru, Sia, anything else from your guys' side before we end off?
No, thank you, Kieshan, and mostly to Bob. My gosh, that was such an engaging session, Bob, and I could see myself in some of the scenarios. So thank you very much on behalf of WITS Business School, the Alumni Association, and of course to our guests. Thank you for engaging, for your comments. Wow, I'm just going to end off by saying wow, and this was a very good webinar. Thank you, everybody. And thank you to Sia Sanga, our Senior Alumni Relations Officer, for putting this together. Thank you, girl. So take care, everybody. And that's it from me, Kieshan. Bob, thank you. And Mjumo, of course, for linking us to Bob. Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Mjumo. We appreciate it.
Fantastic. Maybe one thing before we log off. There were a couple messages asking for the recording of the session. I believe we will be sharing that subsequent to today, Ru.
Yes, we will post it on our YouTube, on the WBS YouTube page in the next 2 days or so.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thanks once again, Bob. We really enjoyed the session. I mean, you've given us some tangible takeaways. Thank you once again. And for everyone who joined, thank you for joining, and have a safe morning / afternoon / evening, wherever you may be.
All right. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.